The city chained me to the furnace square and ordered me to forge the weapon that would erase my own soul. Everyone came to watch. My rivals stood beneath silk umbrellas. The magistrates sat behind mirrored shields. Even the apprentices I had trained crowded the rooftops for a better view. They expected me to beg. Instead, I asked the executioner to tighten the chains. That was when Magistrate Wren finally looked nervous. 3 days earlier, I had been Jarek Vale, licensed soulsmith of the 9th Foundry, keeper of a legal forge seal, and the youngest craftsman in the lower district ever permitted to bind a human resonance into steel. By sunrise, I was branded a thief, a traitor, and a failed experiment. The official charge said I had stolen Imperial Soul Fire. The truth was simpler. I had discovered that the city was feeding people into its machines. Not criminals. Not volunteers. Workers. Every soul-powered lamp, defense turret, freight engine, and heat tower in Vair consumed trace resonance. The public had always been told that resonance came from harmless spiritual runoff gathered from the atmosphere. That was a lie. The power came from citizens. A little at a time. Every shift in the factories shaved something from the workers operating the machinery. A memory. A dream. A name they once loved. The loss was usually too small to notice. Usually. Then I opened a maintenance chamber beneath Furnace 9 and found hundreds of glass cylinders filled with pale human echoes. Some were whispering. One knew my name. It belonged to my sister, Mara. Mara had vanished 6 years earlier during a factory evacuation. Officials claimed she died in a pressure collapse. There had been no body. Inside that cylinder, her remaining soul fragment kept repeating the same 4 words. Jarek, do not light it. I should have reported the discovery through the Foundry Council. That was the law. Instead, I broke the cylinder open. The fragment rushed into my chest like freezing smoke. For 1 second, I remembered things that had never happened to me. Mara laughing on a rooftop. Mara screaming inside a machine. Mara watching Magistrate Wren sign an extraction order. Then the alarms began. Captain Voss arrived before I reached the stairwell. He brought 20 wardens in black iron masks and Sister Mail, the sole examiner who had approved my forge license years earlier. Voss looked at the shattered cylinder, then at me. You always were curious, he said. I raised my hands. There are people inside these vessels. There are resources inside those vessels. Sister Mail flinched when he said it. Only slightly. I noticed. Voss noticed me noticing. That was probably why he struck first. The suppression rod hit my chest and turned my bones to water. I fell beside the broken cylinder while the stolen fragment inside me screamed without sound. Voss crouched near my face. You had a future, he said. A private forge. Council rank. Maybe even a district seat. All you had to do was stop asking where the fuel came from. Then Sister Mail pressed 2 fingers to my forehead and entered my soul. She found Mara's fragment. She found my rage. She also found something I had hidden for 11 years. A flaw in my resonance. When I was 13, a furnace accident cracked my soul core. Most people with that injury died. I survived because my father used an illegal binding technique to anchor my core to the first tool I ever forged. A plain iron hammer. Bent handle. Chipped face. Worthless to anyone else. I called it ash. The binding meant part of my soul lived inside the hammer, and part of the hammer lived inside me. Sister Mail tore herself out of my mind so quickly that blood ran from her nose. He is divided, she whispered. Captain Voss smiled. That smile told me everything. They did not merely plan to imprison me. They planned to use me. Under Imperial Foundry law, a convicted soulsmith could be forced to perform one final act of service before execution. Usually that meant repairing a city ward or crafting a weapon for the military. but Voss had something more ambitious in mind. The city's central furnace had begun rejecting its fuel. Too many harvested fragments had accumulated beneath there. Their fear, pain, and unfinished memories had merged into something the engineers called the quiet corridor. It was not a place. It was a pressure inside the soul network. A growing intelligence made from everyone the city had consumed. The corridor had started pushing back. Lights whispered after midnight. Machines activated without commands. Workers woke with memories belonging to dead strangers. Voss wanted a weapon that could enter the soul network and burn the quiet corridor out. A blade made from a living, divided soul. Mine. They took me before Magistrate Rend that same evening. The trial lasted 9 minutes. My advocate never spoke. The evidence included forged extraction records, altered security images, and testimony from Bent Ear, a scrap broker I had trusted for years. Bent Ear would not look at me. He claimed I had paid him to steal Imperial fuel. Rend asked whether I wished to confess. I looked past him toward the public gallery. My apprentices were there. Ilya stood in the front row. She had been with me since she was 12, all sharp elbows, soot-black hair, and more talent than patience. I had taught her how to hear stress fractures in metal. She had taught me that family could be chosen. Her eyes were red. Captain Voss stood behind her with one hand resting on her shoulder. The message was clear. Confess, or she joins you. So I confessed. The gallery erupted. People called me parasite. Thief. Soul eater. Ilya stared at me as if I had become a stranger. Magistrate Rend sentenced me to final service at dawn. I would forge the weapon. Then the weapon would be tested on me. That night, they locked me beneath Furnace Square with ash placed on a table beyond my reach. Voss came to visit. You are wondering why we left the hammer, he said. No. He leaned against the bars. You should be. I already know. His smile faded. They needed ash because my divided soul could not be fully extracted without both halves present. At sunrise, the furnace would pull my living resonance from my body and my anchored resonance from the hammer, then fuse them into a single weapon. A perfect soul-killing blade. Voss studied me through the bars. You could have been important. I was important to the people you burned. They were fuel. They had names. Names do not keep walls standing. I looked toward Ash. My sister had a name. For the first time, his expression changed. Not guilt. Recognition. You heard her. Yes. That fragment was unstable. She remembered your voice. Voss stepped closer. Be careful, Jarek. Dead things often invent reasons to hate the living. Then he left. Minutes later, someone entered the chamber through the maintenance passage. Bent Ear. The old broker carried a ring of stolen keys and looked 10 years older than he had at the trial. I stood so fast the chains cut my wrists. You sold me. I did. For money. For my son. He swallowed hard. Voss took him 2 months ago. Said the boy had a rare resonance. Said he would disappear unless I cooperated. Where is he? Bent Ear looked down. That answered me. I wanted to hate him. Part of me did. Another part saw only a father who had betrayed one life trying to save another, then lost both. Here was the question I could not answer. If someone sacrifices